Hello, welcome to World Talks. I'm Adam Jasser. Poland's main opposition party, the Eurosceptic Law and Justice, is reeling from setbacks that have overshadowed its victory in presidential elections last June. The party was forced to suspend its former farm minister over a scandal involving potentially illegal sales of state-owned land. And the party's ex-justice minister was charged with allegedly running a criminal ring embezzling public funds. To discuss these cases and their impact on Polish politics, I'm joined by Krzysztof Izdebski, board member at the Batory Foundation and a rule of law expert. Mr. Izdebski, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hi.
Good morning. So, the question of abuses of power, alleged abuses of power under the Law and Justice government that ruled Poland until 2023 have come to the fore again. How serious are these cases?
Oh, I think they're very serious because also, I mean, not directly in terms of the former criminal, the part of this indictment or so far the request to the parliament to waive the immunity of Mr. Ziobro. You cannot see it directly.
The justice minister.
The justice minister, of course. But the part of that, so we have to also remind it's about the Solidarity Fund. So this is...
Explain to our viewers
exactly.
What the Solidarity Fund was.
That's my aim, actually. The Solidarity Fund is a big fund, millions of Polish zloty given every year for supposedly victims of crimes, but it was extensively abused by Zbigniew Ziobro, the Minister of Justice, and his then a party, Solidarna Polska,
a small party in the ruling coalition,
in a connection with Jarosław Kaczyński party, so Law and Justice, and they were given the money throughout the election campaign, but also earlier to the people they knew. So it was a great example. I mean, maybe great is not a good word, but it was a good example, a good picture of how the public funds were abused in terms of the political campaign or the election campaign in 2023 elections. But this Zbigniew Ziobro himself and his environment were treating the Solidarity Fund not as the one that's supposed to support the victims of crimes, but rather supporting their political interests.
So are the prosecutors right to call it, organized crime group, which is, usually reserved for, gangs and mafia?
Yeah, but this is like, and I have to be very curious here, but or cautious here, because of course we are before the court proceedings, etc. But yes, when you read the request to the parliament to waive the immunity, it sounds like a criminal organization. It sounds like exactly what.
So these charges are credible.
The charges are credible, but we were witnessing not only because the act of indictment or this request to the parliament is very concrete and we see a lot of evidence there, but we were witnessing the actual exploitation of the Solidarity Fund during the election campaign. It was also a concern of the State Election Commission that were checking the financial
So in other
reports.
words, there were lots of other indications that some wrongdoing took place. Mr. Ziobro, of course, denies all these charges. Law and Justice leader Jarosław Kaczyński calls them a political witch hunt. But I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he himself at some stage warned Mr. Ziobro not to abuse the fund. So
he has sent a letter during the election campaign that he is actually very worried looking at what Zbigniew Ziobro was doing with this fund, and he was worried that they will lose their subvention. So the money...
Subsidy from the state.
The subsidy from the state for conducting the election campaign. And actually the letter is a part of the whole documentation that just went to the parliament yesterday.
So self-incriminating.
Self-incriminating. Jarosław Kaczyński definitely was not very helpful for Zbigniew Ziobro at that time. He was aware of this, and Zbigniew Ziobro was aware that there is something wrong with the way how he was spending.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about something else. A recent rule of law index by the World Justice Project said that since the current government is in power, replacing Law and Justice government, Poland has advanced in its ranking by 3 positions. Is that significant, and why is this happening?
I'm actually surprised, because if you ask me, I mean, nothing has happened. I mean, no provision were changed, and if Jarosław Kaczyński is coming back to power, let's say in 2027, so the next parliamentary election, he will get exactly the same provisions that were introduced during the former term of his, and that led actually to the deform of the judiciary system and deform of the independence of judiciary system. So I have to look really closely to why these particular indicators we're doing better, because still the Minister of Justice is the same person as the Prosecutor General. This was one of
Maybe it's a matter of how you exercise your power.
Maybe, of course, the practice is very important, but it shows us that, I mean, I think what is important is yes, for example, the narrative has changed. I mean, there are no attacks on judges, as we saw during the different smear campaigns, also, unfortunately, in the public media back then. So, yes, you're right, the practice has changed, but don't let us be fooled by this, and we still need to change the provision, because the rule of law is about the law and the institutions.
But then we have the president who is opposed to the previous president and the new president.
It's a very complicated political situation.
I wanted to ask you about something else, the state of Polish justice system, because we just had a report that a life sentence of a man who was convicted for murdering 3 people was overturned by an appeals court because the judge who issued the original verdict was appointed in an illegal way because of the changes that Law and Justice brought. And the Polish, the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk calls this whole thing scorched earth.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is actually, I'm trying to look, I'm a representative of civil society organization. I'm looking at it from the perspective of citizens, and I'm perfectly aware, also in my heart of the rule of law expert, that, the whole fault lies in 2017, 2018, when the National Council of Judiciary were overthrown and the new council were presented, and
this
they
was
were
in the early days of the Law and Justice
government. Yes, the first term of this 10 years of government, and of course there are a number of verdicts of international courts saying, this was illegal, this was not wrong. But we are, after so many years, we are in the moment that those people who were selected as judges back then, they are in the system. At the same time, we're still missing around 2,000 judges from the system. So from the perspective of citizens, this is not really understandable. This is very, high-level rule of law experts discussions. And I think there is a moment, but I know it's a bit naive, because it has to also involve the president and his political will. It has to involve Law and Justice and their political will. And finally, of course, the political will of Donald Tusk's government to set up a sort of the compromise. Because
is this compromise emerging, do you think?
Oh, it's very emerging, because that's something, I mean, we have to do. We cannot carry on, because the level of trust to judiciary, the level of independence, the way how the people perceive something which should be objective and should be just treated then fair, has a very bad image, unfortunately. And I think we need to...
Law and Justice is in trouble here, because they've been insisting for years now that what they did was right. All the changes that they introduced were right. And they're saying these judges that now see their verdicts overturned on procedural grounds, they argue that, everything was all right. So for them, it would be an admission of guilt.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why I'm saying, and that's why I'm started with them having a political will to be open, because it's for them, it's saying, yes, we were wrong. I mean, sorry for this. So, but I do believe there's a necessity, and again, maybe it's a naive belief, but there is an emerging necessity to set up maybe a sort of the constitutional reset, as there are some propositions on the table.
What impact all this is having on politics? Because we see, Law and Justice was boosted by the victory in the June presidential election, but now they're trailing behind Mr. Tusk's party, and clearly this whole affair and this other affair about land sales is damaging the party's credibility. So what was supposed to be a bit of a home run for them ahead of the elections in 27 is now looking a bit more
it seems
fragile.
like they have to pay for the older sins, and the life caught them at the moment. And what is even more complicated is not that they are competing only with Donald Tusk party, so only renewed during the last weekend civic coalition, but actually the bigger danger for Jarosław Kaczyński party is Konfederacja, and also
the far-right
Konfederacja,
party.
the far right, because also Jarosław Kaczyński from the very beginning, as we all remember from the 90s, he wanted to be some kind of a king of the right in Poland. And I think it's not comfortable for him, I mean, in terms of, you know, how he feels, but also from the political perspective. It's really risky because he was the leader of the biggest and actually only one, and he monopolized the right part of the political scene. Now he has to compete with Konfederacja, which is far right, and even more far right, another Konfederacja of Korona, of Polish Crown, led by anti-Semites Grzegorz Braun. And in these circumstances where we have a lot of criminal cases, not only in this particular example, but also you mentioned Robert Tellers, the former Minister of Agriculture, etc., Jarosław Kaczyński is in deep troubles.
So what do you think, how is it going to affect the Polish political scene? Are we going to see Prime Minister Tusk consolidating his lead? Or are we going to have the far right replace Mr. Kaczyński?
It can be any scenario. I mean, even both. Donald Tusk is leading, or his party is leading in the public opinion polls, quite tremendously actually at that moment. But at the same time, as we're saying, he has eaten all the appetizers. So, so other parties, the smaller parties that are in the coalition.
Mr. Izdebski, we have to wind down.
Okay. So it's problematic. It's hard to rationalize the Polish politics.
Okay.
Follow what
Wait and see.
Wait and see. Exactly.
Mr. Izdebski, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for watching. This was World Talks. Stay on with us for more news and analysis.